Game over. The adventure of Maria Lumowa must stop as she was arrested by Interpol when she visited Serbia in July last year. The adventure she took was long enough as Indonesia's authorities has issued a red notice since December 2003. And what is actually going on behind this fraudulent case? So I would like to elaborate on the timeline through the next graphic. Here it is. We can see Maria Lumowa BNI loan fraud timeline. First of all, in July 2003, she made loans from a state-owned lender, Bank Negara Indonesia, as much as 1.7 trillion rupiah for its group, which is Gramarindo Group, that owned by Maria Lumowa and Adrian Waworuntu. But however, Maria reportedly fled to Singapore in September 2003, just a month before police investigation team named her as a suspect in the case. And Interpol issued a red notice in December 23 for Maria, who had been on the run for 3 months. And moving on in 2009, the ministry has requested, and Maria Lumowa was suspected of being at the Netherlands. But however, when it turns out to be in Netherlands, they were rejected. And in 2010 and 2014, Indonesia's government issued extraditions of Maria Lumowa to Netherlands, but however, it was rejected by the Netherlands. And in July 2019, Serbian NBC Interpol caught Maria Lumowa in Nikola Tesla International Airport, Serbia, and alerted Indonesia NBC in Jakarta. And moving on to July 2020, Maria Lumowa caught and was extradited by Serbian government. And government will take a legal measure to freeze her assets, including her bank account. And as mentioned before, that Indonesia's investigations alleged that she had used fake letter of credit to get the export loan for mining and plantations company Gramarindo Group, which she co-founded with Adrian Waworuntu. For your information, the usage of letter of credit, so-called as LC, is really important in international trade. And before I jump further, I'll tell you more about LC and the next graphic. Here it is, the definitions of letter of credit. Well, actually, letter of credit is issued by a bank or financial institutions that guarantees that the seller, which is the importer, will receive the buyer's payment or receive it exporter. And moving on, letter of credit used within the international trade industry because it needs to facilitate between two countries. And there are many different letters of credit, including one called a revolving letter of credit. And then banks collect a fee for issuing a letter of credit, which is, in this Maria Lumowa case, it is Bank BNI that will collect fee for issuing letter of credit for Maria Lumowa. And because of the letter of credit is typically a negotiable instrument, the issuing bank pays a beneficiary. And in this case, it is Bank Negara Indonesia, or BNI, that fulfilled Maria Lumowa's fund. The total was enormous. It was 1.7 trillion rupiah. And the state bank reported that the case to the national police, but Maria had already fled to another country, which is Singapore. She resided in Singapore in September 2003, a month before police named her corruption suspect. As a fugitive, Maria Lumowa was quite dangerous as she involved many parties in her actions. So who are involved? Let's see the next graphic for the details. Here it is. We can see 4 basic parties involved in the letter of credits issue. First of all, the applicant letter of the credit, which is the importer. And then the second one is the LC issuing bank. So for your information, LC issuing bank is the bank who opens letter of credit, and the letter of credit is created by issuing bank to take responsibility to pay amount of receipt of the documents of the suppliers. And then the next one is the party from the beneficiary party, which is the exporter, and also the advising bank, which is, in this case, it's Bank BNI. The LC transactions worth 1.7 trillion turned out to be fictitious because the company could not disburse the loan guarantees of the same value from the LC issuing banks. It's hard for Bank BNI as a financial institutions to track back and find Maria Lumowa, which behind these fraudulent actions. Maria Lumowa is suspected of receiving assistance from insiders because BNI continues to approve LC guarantees from non-BNI correspondent banks abroad. What are the banks? Let's see through the next graphic. Here it is. We can see 4 banks, which is a fictitious LC issuing bank in Maria Lumowa's loan fraud. First of all, we can see there is MEB, which is Middle East Bank Kenya, and then we got Rosebank Group, Rosebank Switzerland Group, and then we got Wall Street Banking Corporations, and also DIB Bank Kenya Limited, which is Dubai Kenya Bank Limited. And her adventure ended on July 16th last year as she was arrested by Interpol upon arrival at the Nikola Tesla International Airport, Serbia. And the extraditions demonstrates the country's strong commitment to sending anyone committed in a crime in Indonesia to justice. But other than Lumowa's case, there are actually huge loan fraud in Indonesia. And what are those? Let's see it through the next graphic. Here it is. We gather the data about 5 biggest loan fraud in Indonesia. First of all, we got BLBI, which consisted of 138 trillion rupiah. And this Bank Indonesia liquidity assistance scandal was the major hit among of all, since the case involved former chairman of Indonesia Bank Restructuring Agency. And it should be the first step towards discovering what happened in 138 trillion paid to the 48 banks across Indonesia in 1998, which is a financial crisis brought Indonesia's economy at its lowest. And we got S&P Finance with 14 trillion rupiah, and Bank Sentry by 6.7 trillion rupiah loan fraud, and Bank Mandiri for 1.83 trillion rupiah bank fraud, and also for Bank BNI, which is Maria Lumowa's ones, by 1.7 trillion rupiah. Based on the data, we can assess that business loan fraud is still hitting financial institutions despite the tightened reins of lending. But we hope government can continue to settle up other fraudulent actions so Indonesia can be safe and sound. And viewers, stay tuned on market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.